Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Church in which love is the Spirit. We are glad you are here in the sanctuary or anywhere in the world, especially those visiting or returning after a time of away. I am Lisa Smith-Horn, one of your representatives on our Board of Trustees. If you are a visitor, we hope you'll talk with our welcome team or visit our webpage, www.westhartforduu.org, to learn more about us. Our guest book or online contact page will help you get onto our electronic mailing list. Our electronic communications are the best way for us to stay connected. We look forward to helping you become a part of the Universalist Church. Today we'll have fellowship in Fisk Hall and through Zoom. If you need help finding your way to Fisk Hall for our fellowship hour, any member of the church will be happy to guide you. Just look for someone wearing a Universalist Church name tag. I'm so proud of myself because I remembered today. See, here it is. You can find the link for Zoom in your weekly notes, in your weekly news or our Breeze calendar. If you aren't getting the weekly news, please sign up for it on our website. And now I invite you to take a moment to make your mobile phones silent, turn off your email, put away your keyboards, and settle in for worship.
If you are at home and have your chalice available, now is the time to be ready to light it. We light our chalice here in the sanctuary and wherever we may be, with gratitude for our gathering. Whether here in this space, through electrons and waves, in our hearts and minds and spirits, no matter where our bodies are at any given moment, this community, this Universalist church, this beloved religious home is both a place and a state of being. It is where we gather within ourselves, among ourselves, to make and remake ourselves in promises, in covenants for the benefit of one another and the whole of the world. May it be so. Our opening hymn is number 207 in the gray hymnal. Number 207, please rise in body or in spirit, in the sanctuary or wherever you are, as we sing together. Before we speak the words of our affirmation, I just want to say how delightful it is to see all of you here on a summer Sunday. I realize that the weather probably helps a lot. I am deeply grateful for the weather, of course, but for all of you here and all of you who are watching at home as well. Let's speak the words of our affirmation. It's found in your order of service and the description online. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
I invite you this morning to close your eyes. Take a breath, picture something peaceful, an empty blue sky, a pool of calm water that's smooth and glassy, a field of green grass as far as you can see. Now that your mind is fairly calm and clear, let yourself remember a time when you had a difficult or a sad, angry, or frustrating moment with someone that did not end well. And be specific in your mind. Who was it? Where were you? What did each of you say? How did you feel? Did your face turn red? Did you cry? Did you yell? Or were you just silent? Did you stomp out of the room? Take a moment and remember that in as much detail as you can. Okay, take a deep breath, exhale, and open your eyes. While we're all having a collective crummy moment together, remember I told you there was a third tool for your inner toolbox that I wanted to share with you the next time you saw me up here. Our first tool was laughter. Sometimes it helps just to laugh at our troubles or even laugh at ourselves when we're taking something way too seriously. Laughter can magically take some of the sting out of a bad situation. Our second tool, the 3 magic words, I don't know. When we tried every which way to fix the problem and our usual ways aren't working, well, sometimes we just don't know the answers. We can say out loud, I don't know. A truthful I don't know can give you time to let go and collect yourself. If these are simple but powerful tools for helping ourselves when we feel bad or sad or afraid, there's a third tool that's even more powerful than these 2 combined. So, I invite you to close your eyes again. See that scene again that you just remembered a few moments ago, that one where things did not end well. Now, think of something you would change in this scene to make it better for you or for everyone. Imagine something different from what actually happened. Now, you don't get to erase the scene altogether. The tool is not an eraser. But how would you change the scene, especially when it comes to you? What would you say differently? What words would you use? Would you open your arms for a hug? Or could you imagine yourself afterward writing a card to apologize? Can you imagine what it looks like for you to be a better listener in the scene? I'll give you a moment to make that change. Okay, you can open your eyes. We often think of our imagination as something that allows us to daydream or play make-believe. Imagination feels like something that just happens to us. And that's a great gift, actually, when our imaginations just burst forth almost without any help from us. But you can also use your imagination. You can ask it to help you see things differently. It's like rehearsing your life in your mind. And after you've rehearsed a scene in your mind, you may find you want to actually try it out in real life. Thank you.
The voluntary offering, the sharing of our resources for our shared work as a religious community, is a spiritual practice for us. By offering your time, talent, and treasure to this community, you help us serve our members and our friends and the wider community as well. We share our general offering each week with organizations that do work in the world that bring us ever closer to creating the beloved community in order that we may use our generosity well and wisely. And so from today, actually, not just today, a couple days ago, and through the rest of the summer, we're sharing our offering with the Hill Paugussett Nation. They are a tribe recognized by the state of Connecticut with reservation land in Trumbull and Colchester. And we've begun getting to know them during this last year as we decided that we wanted to develop our connections to this land and to its original inhabitants. We have worked with them to understand our collective history in this place, our current situation, and to create a land acknowledgement for our congregation that takes into account that we are not without this land's original community still among and around us. So our funds will go to our friends at the Hill Paugussett Nation to use as they see fit, though we know that they need continued support for their educational programming and their community center. You can give electronically by using the QR codes on the orders of service, the links in the description online, or those on our website to make your donation to the offering. And here in the sanctuary, our offering will now be gratefully received. May these gifts, so generously given, support the life of this community, our work together, and work out in the world that brings this world into being a better place. Thank you. Thank you. Our congregational reading is number 547 in the back of the gray hymnal. Number 547. Please rise in body or in spirit as we speak these words. I'll read the words in Roman type, and you may respond with the words in italics. And I will say, just a few weeks ago, I was a little afraid that this reading was a little too optimistic for us. As you read it, you'll understand why, but you know what? I think as of today, it might be true. Now blows the wind with soft, relaxing warmth. The sun beats down, the schools are out. Children swarm in the playgrounds and the streets, and eager city folk, vacation-bound, crowd the broad highways. The lakes and seashores lose their solitude, and all the world seems turned to carnival. What of ourselves? There could be now deep peace, a time for soul-searching. We might turn to examine our own lives, to sort and probe our tendencies of thought, to sift the true from false in things of doubt, the beautiful from ugliness unmarked. The sun beats down. It is a time for pause. Even the trees seem resting for a time, as if to meditate and gather strength for the more strenuous times that lie ahead. And shall not we? Here's the unfinished clay, half molded, that still waits on us to think what we have been, and as we are, still have yet to know. Let's join in singing our Doxology. Praise God for love we all may share. Praise God for beauty everywhere. Praise God for hope of good to be. Praise God for truth that makes us free. Amen. And please be seated. As we enter our time of prayer and meditation today, I don't have anything specific to share with you on behalf of the congregation, but I do know that there are some people who will be having surgery in the coming weeks, and some people who are struggling a bit right now, some people who are in the midst of some life changes. So I would invite you to hold our congregation, its members and its friends, in your hearts, and in your minds, and in your actions, so that we may be kind to and supportive of one another and ourselves, today and in the days to come. Please join me in a moment of prayer and meditation. Spirit that we call love, that we know as life, that is within each of us, and among all of us, and beyond us and everything else too. We are about to enter into a new time, a new church year, a time of sabbatical, a time with somebody new up here on the chancel. And so in this moment, we ask Spirit that we call life and love to be with us, to move among us. bring us all of the goodness that can come in a time that is just for a little while different than it is usually. Bring to us inspiration, new words, new thoughts, new possibilities. Bring to us growth, a time in which we can learn and become something new. Bring to us renewal, an opportunity to find ourselves. Bring to us imagination, ways that we might think about how things could be different, could be better, could be more beautiful, could be kinder. Bring to us delight, the joy of a not too warm summer Sunday morning. Vegetables from the garden, fruits from the trees, the laughter we share with friends and family, all the pleasures that these moments can bring. Bring to us fondness, the kind of affection that doesn't demand that we are all exactly where we should be all the time, because that's not what's going to happen. But instead, the kind of affection that says, no matter where we are, near or far, that we remember one another with our hearts full with all good things. And eventually, bring to us reunion. That moment when we come back together with all of these things in our lives. Excited to be back with one another, to hear about what's happening, what we have learned, who we have become. Let us take a moment in stillness for the prayers of our hearts. Spirit that we call life and love, be with us in this time. Bring to us inspiration and growth, renewal, imagination, delight, and fondness. And then bring us into reunion, a time of joyful celebration. May it be so. Amen.
Our first reading is entitled, I Confess, by Allison Luderman. I stalked her in the grocery store, her crown of snowy braids held in place by a great silver clip, her erect bearing radiating tenderness, watching the way she placed yogurt and avocados in her basket, beaming peace like the North Star. I wanted to ask, what aisle did you find your serenity in? Do you know how to be married for 50 years or how to live alone? Excuse me for interruption, but you seem to possess some knowledge that makes the earth turn and burn on its axis. But we don't request such things from strangers nowadays. So I said, I love your hair. Our second reading is adapted from For One Who is Exhausted, A Blessing, by John O'Donohue. When the rhythm of the heart becomes hectic, weariness invades your spirit. Gravity begins falling inside you, dragging down every bone. You have been forced to enter empty time. The desire that drove you has relinquished. There is nothing else to do now but rest and patiently learn to receive the self you have forsaken in the race of days. Take refuge in your senses. Open up to all the small miracles you rushed through. Become inclined to watch the way of rain when it falls slow and free. Imitate the habit of twilight, taking time to open the well of color that fostered the brightness of day. Draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you. Be excessively gentle with yourself. Stay clear of those vexed in spirit. Learn to linger around someone of ease who feels they have all the time in the world. Gradually, you will return to yourself, having learned a new respect for your heart and the joy that dwells far within slow time.
When I found that reading by John O'Donohue, I loved so many of the words in it, but I thought the title might be a little bit overstated for the moment. For one who is exhausted, a blessing. Not quite exhausted, thank you very much, but I will take some time to take refuge in my senses and open up to all the small miracles that I have rushed through. That sounds pretty good. Imitate the habit of twilight, taking time to open the well of color that fostered the brightness of the day. That sounds pretty good too. Gradually, he writes, you will return to yourself, having learned a new respect for your heart and the joy that dwells far within slow time. I have to say that I did take out some of the stanzas of this poem because it was really kind of dismal in parts. But the recommendation to live a little differently, to pay attention to those things that are not always apparent when everything is tumbling forward faster and faster and faster, to live within slow time, that's great advice. No matter who it is you are or what it is you are doing. One of the things that I love in the world are fairy tales, folk tales of all kinds. And so many of them talk about how time passes differently in one world than another. Our world, time kind of flows the way it does, but in the fairylands, time passes very, very differently. You could spend what feels like eons there, and you might come back and find that only a few minutes had passed. Or perhaps just the opposite, and this is what happens most frequently. You go and you think you've spent just a few minutes looking at how beautiful everything is and talking to the fairies, and it's only been a little while, and you come back and 500 years have passed. And everyone you know is gone, and everything you know is changed and different. But that's not just a matter of fairy tales. How many of you remember, from quite a long time ago now, a show called Cosmos with Carl Sagan? All right, so some of you have got that one. How many of you remember the remake of Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson in the last 10 years or so, something like that? Okay, some of you remember that too. So Cosmos is this television program, highly educational, but done in a fairly fun way, that invites us to think about the biggest ways in which our universe exists. To think about things like space and time. How everything is built from tiniest little particles of energy and matter to create these enormous structures of planets and galaxies. And in all of that, there is us. Relatively big compared to the smallest things, really quite small compared to the largest ones. One of the things that I loved most about Cosmos, and that stuck in my brain long after I saw it, was a bit that Carl Sagan discussed and narrated about how time is relative, how things happen differently depending on how fast you're going. And so in this story, rather than talking about the speed of light and spaceships and all that sort of thing, he says, imagine someone on a motorbike riding through the countryside. But imagine that the speed of light is actually like 40 miles an hour. And so this person is going along on their motorbike at 40 miles an hour, taking a tour of the countryside, and time for them is just time. But time for everyone else seems to be going very, very quickly if you're on the motorbike. And if you're everybody else, and you're looking at what's happening on the motorbike, it seems like they might be going very, very fast, but time is passing weirdly slowly. so that when this motorbike tour of the countryside is done, this person returns home and finds his neighbors have become quite old, and he is still quite young. Time passes differently for people who are traveling differently. Depending on what we do, depending on how we live, depending on how we spend our time, we feel it in different ways. And when we come back together afterward, we find that those changes, the way in which we have moved through time, has resulted in us being a bit different too. And so for the next 6 months, we are going to be traveling at different paces through time and space. I am going to be doing my very best to travel through time in a way that means it doesn't matter whether it's Monday or Thursday or Sunday. You all are going to be living in this world. The world in which church happens on Sundays and work might happen Monday through Friday or perhaps Thursday through Tuesday, depending on what you do. We will be traveling differently in space and time. Now, none of us are going to be traveling at the speed of light. So when we come back together in February, we'll all be older, but I will not be shockingly older compared to what I am right now. At least I hope not. And you will not be shockingly older compared to what you are right now, or at least I hope not. But we'll be slightly different. You'll have had Diane Daniels as your sabbatical minister. You'll have heard new ideas and new language because she's a different person than I am. And I will have done some other things that will have shifted my thinking too. There's something wonderful about the opportunity to step apart and reassess and reimagine, to have some rest, to have some new ideas. I can imagine that there will be slow and restful times for me, but also for you. And I can imagine that there are going to be fast, productive times for me and for all of you as well. So, in these next 6 months, I will be writing my dissertation. And I sincerely hope finishing my PhD. It has been so much fun to do it, and it is time for it to come to its conclusion. I'm going to travel. I'm going to spend some time with my family and rest. After I take a few breaths, I'm going to spend some time exploring my spiritual life. What is that like when it's not being done in relationship with a community of people who need me to be spiritually aware? What is it that I want and need? It's been a while since I've thought about it quite that way. I am going to do art. I'm going to read books for pleasure. I'm going to tend to my garden. I'm going to cook. And what will you do? During this time, you have lots and lots of things to do. Most of them are pretty much the same things that you have always done and will continue to do. You will continue to engage in addressing the pressing needs of this moment, both within the congregation and beyond it. I know that people are going to be focusing on climate change and climate justice, voting, mental health, continuing to develop friendships and partnerships out in the community. And here within the church, I know that there will be work to strengthen the food ministry, to grow our cooperative children and youth religious education program, to continue to live into our 2020 vision, We have something that gives us a path forward. So just to remind you of what that is, we all agreed in 2020 that our vision was, building on our 200 years as a beacon of liberal faith and universal love, we deepen our commitment to be an ever more inclusive community, grounded in honoring and caring for one another. A church that actively serves the community and works for a just society in partnership with those affected by injustice. A vibrant home for spiritual growth and multi-generational learning. And an eco-conscious congregation where we substantially improve our impact on the environment in big and small ways. There is plenty there to keep us all busy. You'll also have an opportunity to think about what are the pressing needs here at Fern Street? Who are the new folks coming to join us? And what do they need? Who are the folks who've been here for a while? And what do they need? What opportunities are either forcing themselves upon us or hinting to us around our edges that there's something that we could be paying attention to? There is a building to manage. If you're coming in person, you haven't had much of a choice but to notice there's scaffolding all around the front facade of the sanctuary. It's great work that's happening there, and that's not the only stuff we have to do. If you're curious about the building, or you feel a sense of desire to make our building strong and beautiful as our religious home, I encourage you to join the Building and Grounds Committee. That way you are informed and able to help. I know that we have plenty to do there. But a big part of what you will have to do during these 6 months is to remember what work belongs to you, the congregation. Because the minister is only a part of this community. And the rest of the growth and change and development, that is yours to own, to explore, to enjoy, to create. And so in these 6 months, we will have different things to do. You will have the work of the congregation. I will have the work of myself. We will learn who we are without one another for a little while. And that sounds weird and maybe a little scary, but I promise it's going to be great. I am looking forward. Not too quickly. I'm not going to say I can't wait, because I can. But I am looking forward to the time when we come back together and we start asking questions of one another. What did you learn? Who have you become? What's happening now? In the poem by Alison Luterman, I Confess, she reminds us that sometimes we don't ask deep questions of people with whom we are close or just see in the grocery store. So when we come back together, I want to know, what is it that you learned? Who have you become? What possibilities have you imagined? And I hope that you will ask me those same sorts of questions. What is it that we find important? What is it that we now know? What is it that we're curious about? I want more than for you to say to me, "Wow, Adam, you look great. I love your hair." I mean, I never mind a good compliment. That's okay too. But what I really want you to be able to ask me is, who are you now? And what will we do together? Those are the questions that I will be asking you. Because these 6 months, they're not just for treading water. They aren't for rocking the boat either, just to be really, really clear. We don't want these 6 months to be too challenging and too disruptive, but they're not meant to just be a pause where nothing happens, where we just wait and hope. It's not a placeholder time. This is an opportunity, a time to be put to good and wise use. And in that way, we will each use it differently. We will travel differently through time. And then, when we come back together in February, we will have traveled differently and have wonderful new things to share with one another. And I am looking forward to that, because that is exactly as it should be. Our closing hymn is a blessing for this house. It's number 1 in the gray hymnal. Number 1, may nothing evil cross this door. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. So before we speak our unison benediction, I just want to give a blessing to you and to us. May this time be one of great joy and good discovery, of strengthening and resting and acting. But most of all, may this time be a time filled with love and hope and all good things for each of us and every one of us and all of us together. Let us speak together our unison benediction. Engage with the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated and remain for our postlude.